We have talked a lot about how to make this GR Corolla faster and look better, but a big part of what we're gonna be doing with it this summer is track days. And everyone knows the track day, the two big wear items that will increase lap time the most are gonna be tires and brake performance. So today, we are going to be talking about the suite of options you have for your GR Corolla with EBC Brakes. Now, EBC, big shout out to you, EBC, for sending us this awesome set of front rotors, front and rear EBC Blue Stuff pads, as well as the front and rear rotors and Blue Stuff pads for our 2JZ swapped STI. Today, we're gonna be talking about GR specific. They do have their two-piece rotor for the GR Corolla and Yaris, and they have a one-piece version for the rear. Those are not currently in stock, so we're doing the fronts today as well as the pads. Now, before we go ahead and install these on the car and just highlight the differences as well as how to install them on your car, it's very easy. We wanna talk about why we reached out to EBC in particular about brake parts for our car, what type of pads are best for your style of driving, and how easy these are to install, because at least you have the performance pack, they are very easy to install. Okay, so before we go ahead and open these boxes, I just want to talk about which pad is right for your use. Now, they do have 4 available pad options for front and rear for the GR Corolla and Yaris. If you have a different make and model, like we do a lot of Subarus, for instance, they have even more. But we're gonna talk about the GR Corolla today because it's looking me right in the face. There it is. So we're gonna start with the most streetable pad and work our way up from there. Now, this is the EBC Yellow Stuff pad. Now, these are gonna give you a superior performance over the OE pad, as well as cut down on brake dust, especially for the GR Corolla. This is not the selling point of this pad is not low brake dust. It is performance, but if you have a GR Corolla or if you have a friend that you like to make fun of, you will notice a ton of brake dust on these OEM wheels, aftermarket, and even some of the on the paint that we've seen in the past. So this is a great option if you want a more streetable pad, you don't really plan on doing many track days, and you just want to cut down on that brake dust. Boom, right there. The next step up is gonna be the EBC Blue Stuff, which we're installing on the car today. Now, this is gonna be like your weekend warrior pad. So this pad is great for daily driving, and it can withstand the heat and temperatures that a track day might throw at it or autocross. So if you want a little bit higher friction pad that's gonna perform well in those scenarios, the EBC Blue Stuff is gonna be the go-to. Now, this is gonna still give a good cold temperature performance, which, going up to the RP series, they make the RP1 and the RPX for these cars. I had these on the car for the track days that we did last year, the last 2 days at least of the year. Now, these are really great. These are the RP1, which is their medium friction track exclusive pad, the RPX being the high friction. Now, the reason why you wouldn't want to use a track pad on a street or a street car, daily driver car. Usually people are like, I want the most aggressive thing. I want like solid motor mounts. I want the loud exhaust, like track spec exhaust, track spec suspension. That's how I like to drive my cars all the time. This is not one of those products that you want to buy for a car that you drive normally on the street. The reason being is these pads do not perform well until they are up to temperature. Now, if you follow motorsports or any sort of driving of that sort on the track, you'll notice that a lot of times you have to get temperature in the tires, the brakes, and other parts of the car in order for them to perform. I can tell you, based off personal experience, I installed these pads, I think 2 days before we hit the track. And the first few times that I would slow down when I would take my car out in the morning, whatever, the stopping distance would be pretty far, especially compared to the factory pads. So once they're up to temp, they're fantastic. Like, they made a huge difference in the performance of my car the later 2 track days we did as opposed to the first one last year. This is not a pad I would recommend for street use. I don't think it's legal for street. That's really gonna be the Blue Stuff, which, lucky for you, we're doing today. Now, let's talk about this gigantic heavy box. What if we just broke the table in half, dude? That'd be sick. Oh yeah. Labeled left and right, and if you're not sure which one's which, if you're sitting in the car, that's usually how manufacturers label it. So the right side, if you think of like a right-hand drive car, like a JDM car, it's the US passenger side, so that'll be the right. Little trick. All right, we got some brakes. Struggle City. Oh, baby. Okay, I like these. All right, we got some stickers. Stickers are rare nowadays, quite the hot commodity. So the pads come with stickers, the rotors come with stickers, and we have this beautiful rotor here. Now before I open it, it's a 2-piece rotor. Jeff, my rotors on my Corolla from the factory are 2-piece, as long as you have the performance package, the premium, the circuit edition, or the Marizo edition. Wow, I label this off really fast. They are 2-piece, for sure, but it's going to be a different alloy that's making up the actual rotor itself. Secondly, if you do need to replace a rotor, typically the OEM prices are gonna be a little higher than say like an aftermarket one. That's just typical. I don't know the price of those right off the top of my head, if I'm honest with you. We'll look it up, we'll put it right here. Boop. And the point of having a 2-piece rotor is you could replace the rotor itself, and then the hat here you can just swap over from one to the next. And that's really the big thing, is like, it's usually 2-piece are gonna be like more of a performance base because you go through brakes, just a way to cut down on cost. These are really cool, these are beautiful. I believe in the pictures, the rotor does appear as though it's like a darker color, which I personally think is very cool. Oy, baby. And I'm actually curious to see the weight difference between these and the factory ones. But yeah, very cool. So these should be a little better for track use. Obviously with a more higher friction pad or even medium friction pad, this is gonna be able to kind of withstand that a little better and perform better. It's just cool looking, dude. Okay, we are gonna start with the rear pads, as they're a little easier. We don't have to take the caliper off, which is great. We have the blue stuff like we talked about. This is the NDX, which is the higher friction of the blue stuff pads. There are 2 versions. Cool, so we got these thermal pads that go on the back of the pad itself, the painted part, and these are our blue stuff pads for the rear. Now, I believe these are all the exact same. I know the fronts are different because they have the wear indicator, but these all look the same to me. Oh, no, they're not. Okay, so there are 2 different pads, one for the inside, one for the outside. Best way to tell is just take the factory ones off and see which one's which. So I'm gonna put the 2 of the same together, and that way I know I'm not gonna mess them up. There we go, and then I'll put these pads here. Now these will fit on the back of the pad. This is to help reduce noise from where the piston meets the face of the pad. And they do recommend to trim down any areas that are overlapping. So we'll just have to cut a little bit off one side here. First things first, we do have to remove the old pads. Now, we do not remove the caliper. It's not necessary for this. If we're doing a rotor, yes. But we're just gonna take the pads out. So there's gonna be a spring clip on the back. So we're gonna take that out first. These are gonna pull out, these pins, and then this clip is going to come off with those as well. So if you look in the middle of the, you see this right here? So all we're gonna do, this spring clip on the back goes into a small hole and comes through here. So we're just going to push that back and out. There it is. And then the ends of the spring clip are going to go in a small hole at the end of these long pins. Now I'm just gonna pull that out of each of those, and then these are going to pull out. Now there is tension on these from this right here. So all I'm gonna do is push in a little bit to release some of that tension. That's gonna allow me to pull this out. She got a little brake dust on her from a long winter's nap. There we go. This clip right here, note the triangle right here is the direction when you're going forward. So this is going to rotate this way. So we're going to follow that. This comes off, and top one's time. Hopefully this plays along a little better. It's not so far, so that's cool. There we go. Okay, so we got those out. I am gonna clean those because they are a little dirty. All right, so what I'm gonna do from here is just push the pads against each of the calipers, so push them away from the center. And what that does is it just helps relieve some of the pressure from the hydraulic brake fluid. And it's just gonna give us more room to be able to take the pads out, and then more importantly, put the new ones in. So there we go. All right, here are the factory pads. Not too, it's a little wet, but like weird markings really. And then these are the shims. Now with the track pads, we did remove these shims and put them on the track pads. With the EBC blue stuff, they come with those like stick-on pads. So we're just gonna use those. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just clean that out a little bit before we put these new pads on, just to make sure that any of that kind of grime through the winter time is away. I'm just cleaning a couple things up just because, you know, we're here, may as well. I thought about putting this in the Media Blaster, just getting rid of everything real quick, but there's probably some sort of coating on here I don't want to get rid of, so we're instead using the coveted brake parts cleaner, a must-have for any car enthusiast. All right, so I put the first pad on there. It's just a double-sided tape kind of dealio, and I'm just gonna gently razor against the edge here. There we go. All right. And now if we look at the factory pads that came off, this guy right here is gonna be the inside pad towards the middle of the car. So it matches up with this one here, the little point at the bottom. And the other one, the outside one, is the flat bottom one. Gonna add a little bit of brake to these 4 little corners. I added a little bit of brake grease to the 4 little corners that impact the sides of the caliper, as well as where the piston's gonna hit. I did have some squeakers on here before, and I don't want that again. So when I put my factory pads back on after the track pads, we had some squeaking going on. So I am really enjoying the patriotic theme we have going here, the red calipers and the blue pads. So we're gonna go ahead and repeat the process in reverse. We're gonna put this clip back in, and you'll see how it kind of hugs the center little divots there. This doesn't have to go in like right now. I kind of usually like hang it on like right about there on the top. And we are gonna wanna center that though, so it's not contacting the caliper. The bottom one, you're just gonna push the top of that little hump to get that through. That was easier than I thought it was gonna be. And then once again, that marking, we do want to go with rotation, which should be up over here. And then lastly, but not leastly, the spring clip. There is a little trick for these. Obviously we need the holes to be in a certain orientation. So I'll use a little pick right here to just rotate this. It's a little easier than trying to do it with your phalanges. And then once that spring clip is in both, we are just going to reinsert it in the center there and just kind of give everything a little shake just to make sure it kind of gets itself nice and positioned correctly. So that's gonna be how you install the rear pads for the EBC on your GR Corolla. All right, we are onto the front. So for this, we are going to use the same tools we did with the rear. It's gonna be actually the exact same process, just a little bit bigger. And then we are doing the rotor, so we're gonna need to take that off with a 17 mil socket. And then as far as getting the rotor off, we'll probably use one of the machined holes here to push it off. We don't have to, cool. It's a newer car. It's one that's like over a year old now though, which is crazy. So we'll see how it goes. Front pads are larger, as you're probably aware of if you own one of these things, or any car ever. So we don't have the pads on here, so we're gonna be reusing the factory shims. All right, so we're gonna take these 2 17 mil bolts. Now luckily these are on the front and not the sides like a lot of other cars. It makes it a little bit easier to take off. Little things, you know? Now for the caliper, when I take it off, I have this little hook. I'm gonna hang it from the coil spring up there, which is pretty nifty. I know exactly why it's doing this, and I'll tell you in just a moment. Ugh, there we go. All right, there it is up there. So the reason why that was so hard and there's all this stuff, I washed the car this morning on the way in just to make sure that it was kind of clean. It's been snowing and salting outside. As far as the pads go, we're not gonna switch those out with the caliper off the car. One of the reasons is we can just do it as easily when it's back on. Secondly, if you are just doing pads on your car, we wanna make sure this video is still, you know, relevant to you. So we're gonna do the rotor, then the pads, just the way you would do if you're just doing pads. So we're gonna use these bolts here, the 12 mil, to pop the rotor off. So this is what these are made for, is if your rotor has seen some use, these will just help pop it off. So we have a little bit of rust around there just from driving this bad boy every day in the snow, in the rain. Whoa! I don't even know. That was wild. Sorry, that completely caught me off guard. I've never had one of these like do that. So a little bit of scouting here. We are gonna be doing some extended studs in the back. If I'm honest with you, I know a lot of people have done some videos, so a few people have done videos on how to do those. I have not looked at any of those yet. So I'm just kind of scouting out. It looks like the brake dust shield might be a little in the way, but I see the bolts for that, so it shouldn't be too bad. We'll figure that out later. That is another video we're gonna be doing very shortly. Can't wait to get these all salty. But luckily, it's not supposed to snow much longer here in the beautiful state of New York. Oh, baby. Some good looking hats there. So the next part, we're gonna put the caliper back on with those 17 mil bolts, and then repeat the same process as the rear, just in the front. We will show you in detail how to do that, just to make sure you are very well versed. Okay, so same thing as before. We're gonna start by removing the center retaining portion of the spring clip. Pull out the sides from the pins. There goes that. We're going to pull the pin. There we go. And as we saw on this, I didn't point it out. Sorry, I'm sorry. But we did see the arrow on this is pointing down. So the forward rotation is what this signifies there. Just getting some of the grime off here so they're easier to put in and take out next time. Because we will be using the RP1 pads for our track days as well. So even though these blue stuff are capable of doing track events, I might actually use these for the first track day we have coming up, the NASA Northeast one. But I do want to be using the RP1 pads for track because we already have them from last year. They're in good shape, so we got them, why not? We're gonna pull the pads away from the rotor, slip those out. This is the outer pad, no wear indicator. This is the inner pad with the wear indicator right there. So we are gonna be reusing these shims for the new pads, so we're gonna have to pop these off. And all these do is just pop them off like that. And these do seem to have one of those pads like the rears came with on the inside of the shim. A little bit of water in there. Oh, this is the inside one. This is the outside. Let's put these shims over. There are companies that sell aftermarket shims, titanium shims, ones that are a little more thermopassive. We're just gonna use these. This is gonna be the outer one. I'm gonna use a little of this brake grease again. And we can see exactly on the shims where those pistons are going to seat. All right, in she goes. So bottom pin we're doing first. Like I said, this points to the rotation as you're driving forward. So it'll be down. There we go. And last but not least, the retaining spring clip here. I gotta make sure my rotation is 100% Gucci, just like my wardrobe. All right, one side done. We're gonna do the other side in record speed, as you'll see in this quick montage. And yeah, I'm looking how they're coming out.
What's your favorite part we've installed on the GR Corolla so far?
Well, obviously the EBC brake pads and rotors.
All right, we have all four corners all set. So we did the front rotors, the two-piece rotors by EBC, and then the blue stuff pads, NDX, front and rear. I'm super excited to test these out. It is very bad weather out right now, but next week's supposed to be in the 50s, which for us, pretty all right. We're gonna be taking these, like I said, on a whole bunch of different adventures with us this summer. We have the RP ones for the hard track days we'll be doing. But like I said before, these would be great for a daily driver pad as well as a weekend warrior track day autocross type setup. So thank you again, EBC, really appreciate it. We will be doing a lot more content with EBC and these brake components in particular. And like I said, these paired with our Toyo R888R tires for our first track event, I think is gonna make a big difference over last year's. So if you guys are looking for brake products yourselves, we have all these on our website, circuitdemon.com. Please support us by checking those out. It helps us make these videos and do other fun stuff. Until next time, if you guys are looking for any other specific videos you want us to do an install on a certain part, you want us to try something out and see how we like it, please comment below. We'd love to hear that. Until then, let's go stop really fast.